Nicodemus here. On today's episode, I wanted to dive into an easy question that is going on in my life. How do you deal with someone that is content in staying in their illusion and seeing everything through a filter of, it's not that bad, I can't change anything?
Yeah, it's funny you say easy. It's not necessarily an easy question, and it is at the same time. It's simple. I don't know if it's necessarily easy, what I'm gonna say. And the simple answer is let them, because we can't take illusions away from people. Actually, one of the things he says in the course is that if you try to take illusions away from people too quickly, it'll generate more fear. So that the Holy Spirit never tries to yank our illusions from us because that can generate more fear in us. It's just slowly over time, we just start to look for another way. Now, on a soul level, whether they do that in this lifetime or beyond this is not really ultimately up to us. Now, I think it's something from chapter 9, section 3, the correction of errors. This one's really stuck with me over the years because, like all of you, there's people in our lives that maybe you see them going through suffering and challenges, listening to the ego, and you want to obviously help them because you love them. One of the things he says here, he says, the alertness of the ego to the errors of other egos is not the kind of vigilance the Holy Spirit would have you maintain. So the alertness of the ego in others, like being vigilant. So the alertness of the ego to the errors of other egos is not the kind of vigilance the Holy Spirit would have you maintain. Egos are critical in terms of the kind of quote sense they stand for. They understand this kind of sense because it's sensible to them. To the Holy Spirit, it makes no sense at all. To the ego, it is kind and right and good to point out errors and quote correct them. This makes perfect sense to the ego, which is unaware of what errors are and what correction is. Errors are of the ego, and correction of errors lies in the relinquishment of the ego. When you tell a brother or sister, when you correct a brother or sister, you're telling him that he's wrong. He may be making no sense at the time, and it is certain that if he is speaking from the ego, he will not be making sense. But your task is still to tell him he is right. You do not tell him this verbally if he's speaking foolishly. He needs correction at another level because his errors are is at another level. He's still right because he's a son of God. It's a challenging one for us, right? They're right. If they're speaking from the ego, they're always wrong-minded, but it's not our job to correct them because we don't really know what correction is. How can I correct the ego in someone that I love or care about when I don't even know how to correct the ego in myself? So, a couple things, what that might look like in actual life and in strategy is you allow people to be even with their illusions without, of course, I want to say this. We allow them to be with their illusions without trying to take them from them. For us, it's about we love people and we want to see them happy. And I'm going to say this, when you understand one of these fundamental distinctions, what Jesus says in the course is that before miracle workers, us, can undertake their function, being the light of the world, they must understand the fear of release, the fear of healing. Most people are afraid of it. They don't want it. So you start to notice this, they resist it. Anything that's of joy, they resist. Anything of truth, they'd rather live in lies and illusions because they're comfortable in that and they're used to it. Our job isn't to try to correct them or take it from them. Our job is to love them and to just know that they're right because they're a son of God, even if they're speaking insanely. Now, what does that look like with the people we love? I'll tell you, just in my own experience, I find myself arguing less, really never with people. What's the point of arguing? Everybody's right from their perspective. And with the person that you're bringing up, the question for them is, it's like, what does the truth bring up for them? If they were to really look at the truth of their own existence and their own thoughts and what it causes, I pretty much can tell you this person, they probably live in a lot of fear, anxiety, anger, frustration. That's where they come from. So if we go to them like, you're wrong, the way you see it, what you'll start to notice when you say that to people, people get even more defensive. But if we could just, in our minds, ask for correction for them and for our own mind of the Holy Spirit, we can then operate and come from a different place with them of, tell me more about that. Like how do you feel? You'll start to notice that people are very angry and upset and they feel isolated. And some people have been living in that their whole life. So we can have compassion for them without trying to change them. And what we get to be is to be the light that for those that are ready to wake up to the light, they come to us and they see the light in your eyes, in my eyes, and they're like, "What are you, there's got to be another way. What are you doing?" Because without the little bit of willingness, if somebody doesn't have willingness, there's nowhere to go with them. And that's why he says in the course is that the Holy Spirit just needs a little bit of willingness, just a little bit of willingness for us to see it differently. Now, do they have that willingness? Well, if they're getting resistant, if they're afraid, if they're arguing, if they're fighting in that moment, most likely not. It's up to us to just ask for correction of our own thoughts. Remember, the sole responsibility of the miracle workers to accept the atonement, the at one-ment, the healing for themselves, not to get anybody else to accept it. And that's the hardest thing because we want to connect with people we love. We want them to feel great. So it's not like we're coming from a bad place, but we want, especially when we're studying the course and we feel great and you start to feel more joyful, you want to share it with everyone. I'm going to tell you this in my own experience of sharing this with thousands of people over the years for over a third of my life, almost 20 years. Uh, a lot of people just don't want to heal. They might say that they want to, but a lot of people like their illusions have become comfortable for them. Anger has become comfortable for them. Attack, defense, conflict. They live in it for so long. This was also Helen's realization and what Helen got to learn over and over again and how she was living in a battlefield most of her life. That's most people. So all we can do is show them another way by the way that we live and by the joy and the peace in our lives, in our eyes, in our heart, and then be that other way for them if they choose it. If they don't, we can love them where they are. And I'll tell you this, you'll start to realize that for most of us, if we allow people to be where they are and know, see, what for me gives me patience is knowing that the end is inevitable. Everybody's going to wake up back to God eventually, whether it's this life or beyond this life. And so we want to look to where we're looking for the ego or in others and trying to correct it and us trying to be right. That's our work to let that go and just love them where they're at. And then we start to realize that there's so many opportunities to love them, even if they're acting insane, even if they're thinking or talking insane, that it's actually not our job to correct them. That's the Holy Spirit's job. Our job is to have the willingness to allow correction to happen for us. And the more that we practice that, the less that we're going to find a need to change other people. There's an old quote, and I don't remember who said the quote, is that there's no point in walking and preaching unless your walking is your preaching. So for us, it's about living it and continually living it over and over again, and then being that opportunity, that possibility for others when they have that willingness. If they don't, we love them where they are, and we know that that them choosing again is inevitable. We could be the space for them if they want to talk about that and go into that. But you start to realize that a lot of people don't, especially as they get older. Some people are just so fixated in the way that they've been and the regrets of their life. And they have so many regrets of the past that they're in hell. And all we can do is love them where they're at and know that heaven is inevitable for all of us. And then less and less do we even have a need to argue or try to change people. Because think about this, if everybody's right from their perspective, they're right with the way that they see it, they're right according to their operating system, their belief systems, they're right, doesn't mean it's right-minded. It could even be destroying their health, their mind, their peace of mind, and yet we have free will. They could keep choosing that until they see the insanity of it and want to choose another way, but ultimately, that's not up to us. Our job is to choose that for ourselves, live it, and be the light for others and inspire them to wake up to the light within themselves, and then that's between them and the Holy Spirit. So give that a try in your relationships. Anytime you wanna change someone and you wanna all of that, see if you could step back, love them where they're at, choose the correction in your own mind. Where are you still choosing wrong-minded? Where are you still getting caught in illusions? And then that's where the miracle and the forgiveness for us happens. We ask for correction of our own thoughts so we can be the light for the world.